Story 1: Losing freedom. I am an independent person, and back and body pain have interfered. I am 87 years old and will be 88 in September. Story 2: Probably trying to convince people I am still cool when my knees sound like popcorn and my favorite hobby is complaining about my back pain. Story 3: The young generation does not understand that we went through the same troubles. I used to always think older people were dumb when I was a kid until I became older and then realized I should have listened more. Story 4: From experience, the floor seems to get farther and farther away as time passes, making it more difficult to pick things up. Story 5: Forensic psychologist here. As my patients tell me, it is hard to reconcile their loss of physical ability while their mind remains sharp. Society seems to discard people who are older. It is a young person's world, and older patients feel neglected and marginalized. They say, "We feel like we do not fit in." I also agree with those who mention the loss of family and loved ones. Story 6: The hardest part is realizing nobody cares what you think anymore. You go from being important to being just another person yelling at the television in your bathrobe. Very sad. And let us be honest, some people age terribly. Hair gone, back hunched, pants pulled up to the chest. You look like a human raisin, and people pretend not to notice. Story 7: Losing people, whether through death or friends growing apart, is difficult. When you are young, it feels like everyone will be there forever. However, it is painful when reality hits and you have no one anymore. It is also harder to make close friends as an adult. Story 8: You are old for the majority of your life. The perception that being a teenager is a vast part of your life is a lie made up by movies and television. Story 9: Making sure you are financially prepared for when you are no longer able to work. Include your spouse in these preparations. Story 10: Gradually forgetting everything and everyone in old age until you are just an empty shell of yourself, technically still alive but essentially already gone. Story 11: When reality hits, people are not as good as they seem to be and are waiting for the right time to kick your ass and leave. Story 12: The way people look at you. My mind is still young and unruly even if the outside does not look like it. Story 13: Older person here. By far the hardest part is dealing with low energy and aches and pains. I was extremely active in my younger days and feel blessed that I am still active. Starting to exercise now to keep my joints limber would be an impossible task. Story 14: Having to rely on people more throughout life. Most of us will likely have the bare minimum, which means we would have barely anyone to help us. Story 15: This is going to sound shallow, but here goes. Noticing my appearance-based privilege declining as the years go by. The reason I think this will be the hardest thing for me is because it was basically the one good thing about being a woman that made up for all the difficult aspects of being a woman. Story 16: Getting old means you can finally say whatever you want, but then you forget what you were going to say halfway through. It is like a game of charades with yourself. Story 17: I have a group of older friends. I am 39, and they are in their 60s and 70s. I was hanging out with them the other day, and they were talking about how old they are now. It dawned on me that unless I am in a freak accident, I will eventually have to carry on without them. Story 18: My mind is saying, let's do XYZ. My body is saying, forget it, you fool. You could do that 20 years ago, not today. Story 19: Watching family members grow old and pass away. In the last 2 years, I have lost my father, a stepbrother, and my wife. Intellectually, you know that this happens, but you do not think about it when you are young. Story 20: I am nowhere near old by a long shot, but I have noticed over the past year that I have heard a lot of phrases like, women your age, and this is age appropriate. My favorite is when my younger family members are shocked and surprised when I share something from my childhood because it is nothing like what they have today. No one prepared me for the mental loop that throws you through in the beginning. Story 21: Losing my mental faculties. All I have in this world is my intelligence. If I lose it, I am in serious trouble. Story 22: I am finding it difficult due to declining health and loss of loved ones. I am not old by any means, but I am starting to lose family members, and it is very upsetting. Additionally, my disabilities are getting much worse already. Story 23. I am not even old, but I have already experienced several losses of family members and very close friends. It really makes me think about life in general. I am in the process of finalizing my trust so that the little I have will go to help the people I care about. Story 24. Loss of health, abilities, and things that give you a sense of identity and, of course, loss of family and friends when they die. Story 25. Losing the ability to care for myself is difficult. I do not want my husband and daughter to have to take care of me. Story 26. In my opinion, time is moving faster than it used to. I am only in my 30s and I already feel it. The years blur together, you lose people you were once close with, and nostalgia hits harder. Something that feels like it was a few years ago is somehow from a decade ago. It all moves so quickly, and you never get used to it. Story 27. Being old and alone, I find myself more frequently in situations where I cannot do something for myself and have nobody in my life to help with things. I just had a colonoscopy, and the hospital would not release me to leave with just an Uber driver. I need to have cataract surgery but have no idea how to manage not being able to see for a couple of weeks. My family has a history of dementia. This is very concerning. Story 28. The thing I worry about is that at some point I will have to admit to myself that I am no longer able to do something I used to do. For instance, if I have a stroke and lose access to parts of my body, I will never be able to use them again. Or if I become significantly weaker, or if I experience severe back pain. At some point, something will happen, and I will have to admit that I cannot perform some basic function that I used to be able to do. That will be hard. Story 29. Not having anyone to help when my wife and I reach an age where we cannot do things ourselves is a concern. My father lived with me for 11 years, and his last 3 years were the hardest. I am glad I could help make those years good, and he never had to go to a nursing home. However, my wife and I do not have children. What will we do? Story 30. From a healthy and spry 51-year-old, it is sobering when fitness cannot stave off the physical decline of the body. My brain still thinks I am 21, but my knees and back tell me otherwise. Take care of yourselves, young ones. Story 31. Regretting that you cared so much about other people's opinions that it prevented you from doing certain things. Losing control of your body. Story 32. One day, almost everyone from the first half of your childhood and the first half of your life will be dead. You are closer to death than to youth. Story 33. Got this from my sister, weak bones and the realization of not being able to do the things you used to do. She is still in her 20s, by the way. Story 34. When I get out of bed in the morning, the first few steps are shuffles until I warm up my body a little bit. Story 35. I'm living that time in my life now as I approach my 7th decade. Family and close friends passing is difficult but inevitable. My body is deteriorating, resulting in more aches and pains. Lately, the reality that statistically, my wife and I will be fortunate if we live more than 5 or 10 more years has become clear. A sobering thought, to be sure. But we are living in the real world and consider ourselves fortunate to have loved and been loved, traveled, made mistakes, learned, helped others, listened to others, and tried to be kind. I'm at peace for the most part because I'm willing to accept the inevitable and imagine that the next step might be an incredible adventure. Story 36. Nursing home. God or dying? Yeah, I go with going to the home for sure. Definitely worst fear. Like, nobody who passes through these doors shall be coming back out. All rehabilitated and ready for a new lease on life. Just ready to, really start living. It's like, my entire family is dead and all my friends are gone, and I'm going to die alone. I finally arrived. Here's to the best years of my life that lie ahead. Story 37. I'm just starting novel writing at a later age, and my biggest fear is that one day my creativity will fade. I won't have fun thoughts anymore, and with that, my dreams of publishing enjoyable books will end. If writing ever becomes just a development process for me, I will lose interest immediately. I want to always write from the heart. Story 38. Realizing that time is finite and absolute, and that because of this, The things you keep putting off until tomorrow end up being unobtainable or no longer make sense to do. I am 52 and missed out on having children. My husband and I could not, but we could have adopted. Buying a house at our age with no one to pass it on to seems pointless. We are locked into a rent-controlled apartment from when rent prices were cheap, and there is no way we could give this up now. Getting really fit and being beautiful. I lost a lot of weight this past year and I am much healthier, but now I have loose skin, wrinkles I did not have before, and bingo wings, the flappy skin under your biceps that waves when you wave your arm. The list goes on. I am trying to cram as much as I can into the time I have left. Story 39. My haunting thoughts are that no one will take care of me when I get old because I am an only child and single. Story 40. Responsibility does not stop just because everyone else gets older. Unless you are inconsiderate and do not care about anyone else. Story 41. Not knowing if I will have enough to retire with, and knowing that if I stop moving, health issues can arise and take you down. Story 42. Right now, for me, it is retiring from my career and figuring out Medicare, Social Security rules, and insurance matters. I do not want to deal with it, but I know I have to. Fortunately, I am not in pain and feel pretty good. I am 62 years old. Story 43. No matter the effort you put into it, if you do not consistently follow a workout program, there will be a marked loss of flexibility and functionality, not to mention appearance. Story 44. 72 years old. Knowing that decades of eating right, exercising, and moderation have now gained me perhaps another decade despite failing bodily functions, without surgery or pain. All my coworkers, classmates, family, army buddies, and friends are either deceased or unknown. Story 45. Realizing that I will likely die alone in a government-run facility from dementia. I spent my 20s and 30s caring for family members ravaged by the disease and never got to settle down and start my own family. Now, in my 40s, without any savings or retirement money, my best option is to keep going until the disease starts, then disappear into the woods, never to be seen again. Story 46. It's been hard realizing that I am older because my eyes still see the same things, my brain is still very imaginative, and sometimes my brain tells me to do things that my body cannot do anymore. It is a hilarious hoot. Story 47. I am scared to death of losing my mind. I have seen too many people with dementia, and it is so heartbreaking. Story 48. I am 50 years old with a progressive disease that is gradually impairing my functioning. I am going deaf, losing all balance function, and may go blind or become a quadriplegic. The hardest part is not being able to do the things I once loved with my loved ones, and feeling like a burden to them, as if they would have an easier and more enjoyable time without me. When you feel like a responsibility and an obligation rather than a contribution to their full life, that is the hardest part. Story 49. Don't need to think. I can tell you, it's watching everyone die. Your parents, your cousins, your aunts and uncles, your friends. Right now, for me, it's just every few years. But I know it's going to accelerate until it's finally my turn. Life is a roller coaster. There's the exciting climb of childhood, the peak of midlife where you're on top and can see everything ahead and behind. Then there is the final rush down toward the end, constantly gaining speed until you bottom out and do that sad, slow coast, creeping to the end of the ride. Also, your body just starts to hurt and becomes harder and harder to move. Yeah, it's great. Enjoy everything while you can. Story 50. I am 64, and I think one of the hardest things to date has been not knowing what it is like and what to do when you are getting older. I have never been old before. There is no guidebook. Story 51. Looking back at regrets, as someone who is almost 40, I have regrets. I spent my 20s in the gym and working literally 3 hours a day in the gym. My work was pretty much a joke. I did seasonal work and went on unemployment in the winter months. I essentially wasted 15 years doing that. I wish I had spent less time in the gym and focused more on a realistic career. I didn't start taking my career focus seriously until I was 33. Story 52. Family dying. I do not have any siblings. So once this happens, I am truly alone. Increasing frequency of painful medical procedures. More painful existence in general. Increasing volume and complexity of financial responsibilities. At the current rate, Many more jobs will continue to be made obsolete. Losing my looks. Losing my health and spryness. People treating you differently because you are old. Story 53. Do not try to predict it. Everyone's journey is unique. Just live well and support the ones you care for. Besides, the options are pretty limited. Getting old is not hard. It is inevitable. The alternative is death, correct? Story 54. The hardest part for me may sound vain, but I was attractive when I was young. People do not treat you the same when you are just an older woman. It is a tough reality, but one good thing about aging is you simply do not care anymore. Story 55. What will be hardest is that some of us are older. Watching your parents getting old and having dementia. Having your body betray you by failing when your brain is still 18 years old. Watching the world go by, leaving you behind. Story 56. As an elderly person, not being able to do those things that used to come easily and realizing you might be doing some things for the last time. Story 57. I am currently 46. In the last 5 years, I have lost my mom, 2 uncles, my aunt, my brother-in-law, and my dad has dementia. Along with health issues that keep increasing, my hearing and eyesight decline sharply at 45. I have more aches and pains in my joints and back. As much as the health challenges are difficult, not seeing friendly faces during the holidays anymore is also very hard. Story 58. Seeing that everything and everyone around me has changed so drastically compared to my youth, I worry I will not recognize the places and people I love. Story 59. Watching life go stale. Watching friends and family fall into illnesses and die. Having things no longer catered to your demographic. Learning that some of what you were once told is false. Story 60. Loss of dignity, respect, individuality, and independence occurs in many cases. I think the elderly and how they are treated is a very taboo subject. I am not saying that if you are unpleasant all your life, you deserve to die like a king, but I believe a significant amount of elder care is inhumane. Story 61. We are still working with a 90-year-old man who used to be in the Navy and then spent 30 years in law enforcement. We understand that he is very old and cannot do some things anymore because he is unsteady and prone to falling. Starting to use a cane was a challenge. Then the scooter. Then getting him to use the home walker. Now he uses everything. Toddlers fuss less. Story 62. I just turned 59 and am happy to wake up every day. Like the previous person said, losing childhood friends and family is difficult. I hope to stay healthy and grow older. Story 63. Losing the ability to use my joints properly. My knee is already damaged, so it is just a matter of time before everything falls apart. Story 64. Growing old alone, without a partner or descendants to miss me when I am gone. Living a life devoid of meaning or purpose. I cannot allow myself to reach that point. Story 65. Receiving medical care from entitled individuals who have no empathy and dismiss my reported symptoms if they do not match what they want to treat. Story 66. Admitting that I am too old to take care of myself the way I want to. Watching it happen to my parents right now, and I do not know what my version of that will be to my children, but I hope it is not like this. Story 67. Mom was right. Blink and it's gone. You will not remain forever young. Tell your loved ones that they are loved every day because you might not be able to do it the next. I didn't have a babysitter when Mom was in the nursing home. Mom asked me to come back and spend the night with her. The nursing home would not allow my daughter to stay, so I tried to find a babysitter. Everyone I knew was too busy. My mom died that night. I found out that she died during the night when the front desk nurse stopped and told me that she had passed as I was holding the new TV I bought my mother as a surprise. They had already moved her body, and a worker had already stolen the $50 cash she had in her purse. Tell your loved ones that they are loved. Mom was 45. Not really that old, just wanted to share. Story 68. Accepting that closure is not always going to come. Some things just end. Often they end unfairly. People are not going to apologize when they have wronged you. More often than not, they will just move on with their lives and vanish into obscurity. Learning to let go is hard. For me, the first step was learning to forgive, even when forgiving is difficult and will not save the relationship. Letting go of the hurt is cathartic and a huge step towards a healthier life. More often than not, the grudges you hold exist for you and you alone. Move past it and let yourself find peace. Story 69. I am old, and my parents and in-laws are much older. It seems to me that the last few years can be quite difficult. I am beginning to hope I do not make it that far. Maybe I will be training for a slow marathon in my 70s, and a truck takes me out. I could be at peace with that. Story 70. For me, I feel like it is happening now. Watching my sons turn into men but still remembering the little boys they were. Realizing they will soon be off raising families of their own. Bittersweet for sure. And my body. Good God, the breakdown, the soreness, the tiredness all the time. Just wanting a nap hour. Not happy hour anymore. All of this while still feeling very young in my mind, with big ideas but less and less energy to do the things. I have the same mental zest I had in my 20s and sometimes forget how much time has passed. But then I look in the mirror or at my kids and think, whoa. I think the hardest part down the line will be being at peace with what I have managed to accomplish and accepting my body cannot do what it once could while my mind still wants to do more. Assuming I retain my faculties. Story 71. Not being able to do things on your own that you once could. I visited my father over the weekend and he is walking with a cane or sometimes a walker. He was a man who was very active and stubborn about asking anyone for help because he could do it all. Now he has to depend on many people to do basic tasks. It must be frustrating to feel like a burden. Story 72. Accepting that I will not achieve the same results in activities at which I excelled when I was younger. I am not a natural talent. Story 73. Waking up in pain every day. I used to until I started taking black seed oil every day. Not trying to sell anything. I just read about it once and it's actually in the Bible and the Quran. It says it will heal everything except death. Since taking it, my back pain and arthritis in my hands have gone away. I am 55 and have broken almost every bone in my body, some 2 and 3 times. I had every rib broken, with 4 of them broken in 2 places. This was all while growing up. I broke 1 kneecap in half, didn't get a replacement, and have had 5 shoulder surgeries in a 4-year span. So yes, pain was the worst for me. Story 74. I do not have children, which is the right choice for me, but it will be disappointing if I am very old and infirm and no one is there to help me, even out of obligation. Story 75. The best part is not having to get up and go to work. I am 70 years old. I have not figured out the hardest part yet. Being a pharmacist for 47 years was the hard part. This is a piece of cake. Story 76. I am only 45, and the arthritis is very painful. The fibromyalgia is already life-limiting. The hardest part for me will be moving around, being able to write my name, helping with my grandchildren, and making sourdough. I work with my hands all the time, and I am a writer as well. Losing the use of my hands will be the absolute worst. Story 77. How many doors close on possible futures? When you are really young, you can swing your life in nearly any direction and probably make something of it. But once you are older, especially if you have responsibilities to family, the number of possible futures available to you to pursue starts to drop. The best shape of your life is probably behind you. The knees and spine you need for certain activities are worn out. The person you wanted to ask out, the place you wanted to see, the parent or grandparent you wanted to spend more time with, the language you wanted to learn, the instrument you wanted to play, the life you wanted to see yourself live, those opportunities have a shelf life. All the times and things you said, I will do that at some point, or I would like to do that someday will eventually become, I would give anything to go back and do that. And sometimes, if you do one thing, it makes it so you cannot do the other. Spending time on A takes time away from B. At 39, the picture is getting unpleasantly, but helpfully, clear in that regard. Story 78. Looking at an attractive male or female and instantly feeling a twinge of unusual emotions wash over your body. Anyone else? No, just me? Story 79. Your body starts breaking down, from bones to internal organs to teeth, skin, and hair. You recognize changes and know there is nothing you can do to stop growing old. The media only makes it worse. From movies, music, and advertising aimed only at a younger age group, it feels like you are being erased. The only advertisements directed at you are for hearing aids, insurance, supplements, and incontinence products. Have you read anything on Yahoo lately? How many negative articles do they post each day criticizing baby boomers for everything they do? Baby boomers own all the real estate, received affordable college educations, wear tacky clothes, have hideous home decor, eat unhealthy food, and much more. Story 80. Not the hardest, just something annoying. I used to be able to eat anything I wanted and not think about it. I was fairly physically active and my weight always stayed down, which is still mostly true. However, now some foods cause acid reflux, some cause gout, and some are bad for cholesterol. Story 81. Everything hurts for no reason, and things that should hurt even worse. That and loneliness. Story 82. Survivor's guilt. I already have enough of that at my age, late 30s. I do not know how I am going to handle it if I live to be old. Story 83. As a man, realizing younger men no longer see you as a threat. Some people call this toxic masculinity, but it is the story of every man when he reaches advanced age. Story 84. Absolutely everyone thinks the older are more lacking intellectually. They do not remember your corporate job, accomplishments, or the snobbish school you attended. They are nearly 30 and still with a sweaty hand out. Story 85. Your body breaking down in sections. First the eyes, then the joints, then all the internal organs get their chance. Story 86. Being surrounded by people who did not take care of their bodies. I never wanted to be a burden on anyone, so I kept in shape my whole life. Story 87. I'll tell you, when your brain tells you that you can, but your body tells you that you can't, and you listen to your brain while your heart is stuck in the middle, it is difficult. Story 88. I play recreational ice hockey. At 42, I am constantly unable to do things that used to come naturally. Things get harder, and it is honestly tough some nights. Story 89. There is no wind in the sails. Adrift on invisible currents. The breathtaking sunset is just a reminder that soon, darkness and silence envelop, and forever is a lonesome story. Story 90. Your body does not behave the way it used to. You cannot do things without thought anymore, such as walking across a room full of obstacles, standing on something more than 6 inches off the ground, or getting yourself off the ground from a seated position. Story 91. For me, it was realizing that I no longer jump out of the bed of my truck. Instead, I sit on the tailgate and slowly slide off. Story 92. Looking back and now realizing all the times you made wrong decisions that dramatically affected your life in a profoundly negative way. Story 93. I am old. I did not know everything would hurt so much. That is why elderly people are slow. Moving can be challenging. Story 94. The pain. I work with elderly people. They all say, don't get old, and spend so much time at doctor's offices and with medications just to hopefully be in less pain that day. How are you, Billy? Well, the nerve shots helped half my back, but hopefully next month I'll be feeling better when I get the rest of the shots. Second, loneliness. Many elderly try to live at home as long as they can, but their joints give out, they stop being mobile, and they don't get out anymore, so they're dependent on whoever happens to visit them for entertainment, which typically isn't much. Even if they do have a loving family, that family has jobs and lives and might only be able to visit for a few hours on the weekend. They're alone most of the time, and it's incredibly quiet. Honestly, I'd say that's the #1 benefit of a nursing home. Consistent social interactions are wonderful for your health. Third, not being able to drive. Out of toilet paper? They have to ask a grandchild to drop it off because they can't see their tablet well enough to order delivery from the store. Just not being able to go where you want or do what you want is very frustrating. Most elderly get frustrated being trapped in a building, regardless of what building it may be. Story 95. Losing the twinkle of hope that seems to get smashed out somewhere between 21 and 26 for most people. Optimism taking a back seat to acceptance is as harsh as it gets. Accepting you cannot really change or fix any of this and just have to ride it out. That is a whammy. Story 96. Remembering when the phrase will be In this question implied that the time would be in the future. It is no longer in the future. Story 97. I have seen several family members go from vibrant to essentially running out the clock, unable to move, incontinent, and experiencing dementia. As much as I do not want to die young like other family members, I also do not want to hang on so long that I cannot do anything. Story 98. Both my parents had dementia, more than one type. My father specifically also developed Alzheimer's disease during his later years. My older brother is showing signs. My older sister, after denying it for years, is finally admitting she is having issues. I have one of the genes associated with Alzheimer's disease. It is terrifying. Story 99. Being that I am considered old already, I am 58 years old. Accepting my limitations. I am 58 with the body ailments of an 80-year-old. Death or thinking about what it will be like when I die. When I hear about a classmate passing away before they have reached 60, it scares me a lot. Story 100. Not enough money to afford care at home or in an assisted living facility. No family members to help when you start declining. No one around to know if you have fallen and cannot get up, or have not eaten for several days because you are too weak to fix something or go shopping. This situation is real. Start saving in your mid-50s as if you will not have enough to last your lifetime. Put your money in certificates of deposit where it is safe, not in stocks, bonds, annuities, cryptocurrency, or anything else you cannot completely control. Story 101. Something I never hear mentioned is watching the people you fantasized about throughout your life grow old and become no longer of any interest to you. That cute girl you always wondered about, what if? Well, she is now in her 50s with grandchildren. It is a hard point to explain without sounding shallow, but when it happens to you, it makes you feel old like nothing else does. Story 102. Picking up the phone to call your mother because it was a habit when you saw something funny on television, only to be jolted into the reality that she has been dead for 20 years. Story 103. People constantly remind you every year and periodically throughout the year. I understand why people have midlife crises. When you actually get old, people want to tell you, and then it hits you even if you don't feel old. Story 104. Staring 60 straight in the eye, I have to remember the cute 30-somethings are younger than the parents of my grandchildren. Story 105. For me, my future husband is much younger than I am. I thought he was crazy when he wanted me. I laughed, but he was persistent. He is very young, and I wish I could have known him before. It makes me sad, but I enjoy the journey. Story 106. As some people mentioned, the noticeable decline in physical and mental capability stands out for me. I just turned 42, and I am constantly finding new things that I cannot do like I used to, even just 5 years ago. I always thought the decline would not be so blatantly noticeable since it happens slowly and gradually, which I am sure is still ultimately the case. However, there is now a lot that is noticeable, however small, and it makes me worry about 10 to 20 years from now. Story 107. Honestly, as someone who is getting old, the hardest part is waking up and thinking, now why does that hurt? My body breaking down for no reason is terrifying. To be fair, I have not been kind to my body, but it is still terrifying. Story 108. Either watching my family pass away or not retiring at a decent age because of the poor decisions I made when I was younger. Story 109. Dealing with the same large population of people who have aged and now consider themselves wise because of it. Story 110. Aged carer here. The hardest thing I have seen is definitely losing your dignity, as well as dementia and cognitive decline, which is heartbreaking. Comforting an elderly person because they do not know why their mother did not pick them up from school today is very heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking to look at them and know that they are someone's baby. Story 111. So far, I need to urinate much more frequently. I no longer stand at the front of concerts because I cannot arrive early enough to secure a good spot and still hold my bladder for the entire show. Story 112. Seeing young people and realizing the most valuable thing in life is the amount of life ahead of you. Story 113. The hardest part is going to bed feeling great and waking up with an excruciating new pain somewhere in your body. Parts wear out as we age. Story 114. Probably watching your children grow up and leave to build their own lives. It is beautiful, but I imagine it comes with a quiet kind of heartbreak. Story 115. Not being able to pop, lock, and drop it when the beat hits. We are a fairly physical family who enjoy the outdoors, so losing that would be disappointing. Story 116. I'm fairly certain I'm there at 48. Realizing that the dreams are dead. There's no resuscitating them. Career is a thing of the past. You have a job now. Despite the toxic positivity of "you're never too old." Sometimes you are. Finally, you end up in a life that is probably okay, though still poor with little chance of retirement, but is a complete reversal of anything you ever wanted or trained for, and you can't find contentment in it or have any power to change it. Story 117. I am not old, but I am up there in years. For me, it is that you think you are healthy. You have done everything right within reason. Despite this, your health will start to decline. Medical problems will begin to appear, and there is not much you can do about it because you were already trying to be healthy. I am not at the point where friends are starting to pass away, but we try to visit and keep in touch with all of our friends. New friends are hard to make, so keep in touch with the ones you have now. Make that phone call and have lunch together. Story 118. The acknowledgement that things cannot go back to how they were. Your back will always hurt, your friends and some family will have gone away, what was fun will not be, and what is fun is not there. Never again will it be simple. Getting old sounds unappealing. Story 119. Getting there. Many people nowadays die young in my country from various diseases. It will be a success to get there. Story 120. Something I am starting to notice being only 37 years old and working in a place where most people are in their early to mid-20s is that people do not approach, hang out with, or talk to me anymore. Many of them assume that I am boring and reserved just by appearance, without getting to know me. Maybe I am just in the wrong place, but it feels alienating. Story 121. As someone who played high-level contact sports in Division I and semi-professionally for as long as I could and got out reasonably unscathed with no major surgeries, filling that competitive void is difficult. It's strange. The physical desire to compete slowly fades away, but the mental addiction to it decays much more slowly. Combine that with all the accelerated aches and pains. I am 33, and my shoulder hurts all the time. I stay active in the gym, but I am always sore. I am grateful for all that I experienced, but I miss it every day. It is a hard feeling to explain. Story 122. Reflexes and muscle pain in general. Struggling to get up, walking, sore knees, not being able to run. It is scary just thinking about it. Take good care of your body to delay these problems as long as possible. Story 123. Realization of what I have not done and will never do. I am not old, certainly well into middle age, but even now I am not as strong, fast, or as physically capable as I was. Hangovers last 3 to 4 days. Sleep is broken up by the need to urinate. Physical decline is difficult. Story 124. Cumulative injuries I could skate past when I was younger have now caught up with me. I used to be very active, but now I have to wear a knee brace and stand up slowly to avoid aggravating my lower back. Story 125. You have lived a life of play, beautifying yourself, competing with your peers, and did not take time to reflect on your existence or existence in general. Now you are sure that death is coming, and you will be returned to the one who created you. Story 126. The thought of doing it alone has crossed my mind a lot recently, but I remind myself that even if that is the case, I am going to be okay. Story 127. Losing your health and having to rely on others to take care of you. Watching your friends and family slowly pass away. Story 128. I remember when I was a young girl out in the world doing exciting things, and people said they couldn't believe I was doing this or tried to discourage me because I was a young girl and it was dangerous. I remember when I was a young woman out in the world doing exciting things, and people said they couldn't believe I was doing this or tried to discourage me because I was a young woman and it was dangerous. Now I am a middle-aged woman out in the world doing exciting things, and people say they can't believe I am doing this or try to discourage me because I am a middle-aged woman and it is dangerous. I imagine when I am an elderly woman, it will be much the same. Story 129. I think getting older will be a happier time as I will be wiser and more resourceful. I will know how to tackle any situation. Story 130. Spraining your back when you cough or sneeze. Not being able to travel freely due to mobility limitations. Losing friends and family. Story 131. My father just turned 80. I have been living abroad for a long time, so I did not see him age gradually but in a few steps. When I left, he was in his early 60s and quite healthy, just retired with many plans. I then visited my parents once a year or less. The changes since he turned 70 are quite dramatic. One visit he is relatively fine. The next he has trouble walking. Now, while I would not say he is a wreck, he seriously struggles to walk or do simple activities because he shakes so much. And the constant back pain. Not being in control of his body is probably the thing that frustrates him the most, as he cannot do many things he loved anymore. And he knows it will never come back. That is why I recently started practicing karate in my early 40s. Story 132. You get to be surprised at what is hard about getting old. So many different things mess you up. Unusual health issues you never imagined, romantic relationships ending or lacking, family and friends turning their backs or turning out to be difficult, and discovering that you can't ever retire. The list goes on, and it's nothing like I thought it would be. It is difficult all around. Appreciate what you have now, forget about social media, and love your body, your friends, and your family. Later in life, that is all that matters. Story 133. My wife works with elderly clients who have terminal diseases. The support provided to anyone over 65 in Australia is very poor unless they are wealthy and can afford private specialists. Therefore, I would say that healthcare is declining and is only going to get worse. Story 134. Admitting to myself that I am 51, but people still think I am in my 30s at most and ask for my identification. I just cannot get the mindset. Does anyone else feel like this? Story 135. For me, it is watching and feeling the effects of time on my body, a real reminder of your mortality that you cannot ignore. Story 136. I think about questions from other people or family, such as, where are you working? When will you get married? When will you have children? Or maybe about paying taxes. Story 137. For me, one of the most important things has been finding that special woman to hopefully spend the rest of my life with. It has been a long time since I have been alone, and I feel old, although my friends tell me I am far from it. Loneliness is the hardest part for me. Story 138. Feeling worthless. No one wants to listen to you. You are obsolete, and your opinions mean nothing. I am 47 and feel like Marty McFly disappearing in the photo. Story 139. Getting called an uncle by family and friends. Ever since I turned 18, all my family and friends have been calling me that. Story 140. From an old-time runner's point of view, I am watching these 30-year-old runners brag about how fast they are. I would not have walked out the door if I were that slow back then. This is not the hardest thing, just an observation. Story 141. Watching my parents get older. Dad retired but is disabled due to a stroke. Mom now needs a cane to walk because her knee has deteriorated. It is tough because they were superheroes to me and my siblings. Story 142. The stress of young people criticizing you for seemingly abusing the concept of old age forgetfulness to justify your otherwise bad behavior. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.